to talk about mind over matter. Our mind creates the physical world, we call it matter. If we can change our mind, then we can change the physical world. According to the consciousness-only school of Buddhism, it says we have 8 consciousnesses. We have the eyes consciousness, ears, nose, tongue, and body. These 5 comes into direct contact with the outside world. These 5 have minimal ability to perceive the outside world. They have to work with the 6th consciousness, the mind consciousness, in order to have cognitive function. Unfortunately, this mind consciousness is controlled by the 7th consciousness, the manas consciousness, which is full of the self, the ego. The manas consciousness is infatuated with the alaya consciousness, thinking that is the self. This is how we experience the world. Unfortunately, this is a deluded mind. If we can transform our consciousness into wisdom, then it's the true Buddha nature, our true suchness. But little did we know that this alaya consciousness is the same as our true Buddha nature. It's one of the same thing. It's just one is deluded, one is enlightened. It's just in different states, but it's the same mind. Therefore, we need to understand how to transform the deluded state right now. First, we have to realize all the consciousnesses are ignorant. They're deluded. The alaya consciousness is called the basic ignorance. It's the big warehouse that carries us through all our lives of reincarnation. You can call it the soul. That's our big root ignorance. It's the opposite of the secondary ignorance, the 6th consciousness. This thinking mind, it's only secondary because it's easier to see, easier to change the mind consciousness. But it's harder to realize the existence of the profound and subtle alaya consciousness. That's why this is basic and this is secondary. This is like uprooting the tree from its root. This is like breaking off the branches of the tree. What we need to do is completely wake up from the dream. The whole life that we're having is a big illusion. To know illusion is to depart from it. To depart from it is to be enlightened. If we just wake up and know that this is all a dream, then it's the original enlightenment. The manas consciousness is called the unmixed ignorance. This ignorance doesn't have to mix with any other consciousness. It's very distinct and particular. It doesn't need to have other afflictions. It's naturally ignorant. That's why it's called unmixed ignorance. So all of them are ignorant in nature. This alaya consciousness has 3 names. The first name is store consciousness. It's the big storehouse. Whatever we have done in all our lives is stored in here. What we think every day gets stored in the storehouse as karmic seeds, or you call it karmic energies. All your wholesome, unwholesome, and neutral deeds are all stored in here. When the condition ripens, the seeds develop into our real world. All the matter is created by the alaya consciousness. The seeds, they manifest into our reality. We do not know that all realities are only images created by our alaya consciousness. Therefore, we think it's real and our mind attached to them. And we start having delusions and afflictions because of the outside environment. The second name is called appropriating consciousness. This consciousness appropriates all our sense organs, so our body will not perish as long as we are living. Even when you're sleeping, this consciousness is carrying our body so we stay alive. At the moment of our death, it appropriates us into our next life. When parents are consummating, it attaches itself to the egg and the sperm. That's how you develop into a new life. It's all because of this appropriating consciousness. Lastly, it's called the mind. This mind accumulates. You have many habits accumulated from your prior lifetimes. You don't even know. But if you like to meditate this lifetime, it's because you meditated in your prior lifetimes. If you see insect, you like to kill it, that's because you've done it many lifetimes, so you're used to it. We carry many habits from our prior lifetimes. That's why it's called the accumulating mind. So the existence of this alaya consciousness is the basis of Buddhism. That's what reincarnation is, and that is what cause and condition is. If we can understand the existence of alaya, then we know how to change our life and get out of reincarnation. The alaya is neutral. Whatever you put in it, it carries with it. But the manas is naturally defiled because it's full of the self. It naturally has 4 afflictions all the time. Number 1 is self-view. When you're doing wholesome deeds, unwholesome deeds, or neutral deeds, doesn't matter what you're doing, you always have this idea of the self. When you're doing good deeds, you want people to praise you. You want people to affirm this ego. We always carry this idea of the self. It's always present. We also have the self-pride. We think we are special. We're better than others. Even a dog, even an ant, even pigs, they're proud of their appearance. Then we have self-love. We're always protecting ourselves. Protecting this body, protecting our reputation, our family. We love the self. That's the only thing we really love. And we also have self-ignorance. We're ignorant about the self because we think we have a self. That's the biggest ignorance. These 4 afflictions are with our manas all the time. That's why it's always defiled. The mind consciousness is the only one that goes outside and experiences the world. Because we're attached to the external world, the conditions, we start having afflictions. I listed the 6 basic afflictions. In favorable conditions, we become greedy. We want it to happen again and again. In unfavorable conditions, we become angry, bitter. We have resentment, irritation. That's all anger. We also have ignorance. This ignorance is the same as the self-ignorance, except the affliction in the 7th manas is inborn. But the mind consciousness, ignorance, is acquired. It's acquired from your education, your society, your belief system. So the 6th consciousness is more acquired affliction. And we have arrogance. That's the same as self-pride, except this is inborn, this is acquired. And we have doubts. Deep down inside, we never believe our mind is the Buddha nature. No matter how much we learn about the sutra, we never believe we are the Buddha. If you really believe in it, then you will be enlightened already, because your mind is already the Buddha. But we have doubts. So that is also a strong affliction. We also have false views. The biggest false view is the view of the self. So it's the same as the self-view, except this is inborn, this is acquired. So we have all these afflictions in our mind consciousness. When we have these afflictions, it becomes unwholesome deeds, and it permeates into seeds in the alaya consciousness, and it ripens into resolve. And so it's a big reincarnation. So if you want to talk about reincarnation, it all happens in our consciousness. It's a big vicious cycle. The key of learning Buddhism is to change this consciousness, because that's the only thing we can really change, our thinking. If you change this, then everything will change. We gotta be careful of every one of our thoughts, because every one of our thoughts is stored in here. We will have karma. Be careful what you think about. It all has consequences. We need to change greed into generosity, anger into compassion, ignorance into wisdom. arrogance into humility, doubt into faith, false view into right view. Watch every one of our thoughts and change our afflictions. That's how you purify your alaya consciousness. Every moment you're thinking, you are changing your alaya consciousness. Destiny is in your hand. Right now, we have the big earthquake in Turkey. That is our collective deeds, our collective karma in our alaya consciousness. We are all responsible for this disaster. Of course, everyone has different level of karmic seed with this event, but we are all responsible. What we need to do is to repent. Earthquake comes from our pride, our uneven mind. We gotta watch our thoughts. That's the only way to improve the world. If we purify our alaya consciousness, we will realize the alaya consciousness is our true Buddha nature, the suchness. All the ignorance now is the original enlightenment. It's no longer ignorant. We originally have the pure mind. This mind is actually eternal. It never changes no matter how many reincarnations we've been through. It's always the same. And it's always permanent. No matter what happens in the outside world, your Buddha nature is permanent. It's the same. And it's immutable. It's not affected by any of your afflictions. None of your afflictions affect your true nature. And it's always pure. It doesn't have the idea of the self. It has no afflictions. And it's self-sufficient. We have perfect wisdom, perfect compassion, and we can be omniscient like Buddha if we really go back to our true perfect nature. Xingyu Master, he has established more than 300 temples throughout the world. He helped save millions of people to learn Buddhism through his words, through his action. He was very sick in his old age, but he said, I am not sick. I just have little inconvenience. He worked all his life and never felt tired. That is a bodhisattva. He has no delusion and no limitation in his mind. So believe in ourselves and change our destiny for the better. It's really mind over matter. Thank you for listening. Amitabha.